Hey, this is John Shea, and you're listening to the Out of the Rat Race podcast, a fun educational podcast brought to you by LI-RIA. LI-RIA is a real estate networking organization comprised of top quality rated leaders in the professional world of real estate investing. LI-RIA offers education, funding services tailored to fit real estate investors' needs, access to professionals, and a mentorship program with a proven industry track record of success. So sit back, relax, and get ready to hear the lessons, stories, and opportunities we provide that have helped and continue to help people just like you get out of the rat race and find financial independence through real estate investing. Hey guys, it's John, and on today's episode, I'm joined with someone who wrote us a question through the website like 2 years ago. His question actually says, "Hey guys, thank you for all the great content every week. Me and my fiance are both police officers. I work in the Melville area, and my fiance works in the city. I told my fiance so many times that I'm willing to work 100 hours a week for her to leave that dangerous job. But it's hard to tell a strong, independent woman to leave her job. I'm still willing to work as hard as I can so my fiance can escape the rat race. I can't wait to network with you guys and many other like-minded people for the first time on November 10th at the monthly meeting. 2 questions if you have kept reading so far. How much is the mentoring class, and is there a payment plan that can be set up to pay it? I have a deal with no capital for a down payment. Can Fund and Grow really help me get the down payment for this deal?" Now, those questions were answered for him, which brings us to today. I'd like to welcome Officer Joelvy Delacruz to the show. How's it going, man?
How's it going, John? Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Excellent. It definitely is a pleasure for me too. You're off today?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I'm working right now.
You are working right now. That's right. So believe it or not, we actually have that networking meeting that Joelvy was talking about on the second Tuesday of every month. To get a free ticket, go to outoftheratracepodcast.com, hit the event banner, and use the promo code RAT. R-A-T. It's an appetizing word, right? RAT. R-A-T as the promo code, and get your free ticket. You know, before we start getting into this interview, I wanted to take a little bit of time to talk to you about the ripple effect or the butterfly effect. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I really do feel that one small action is really all that it takes to make a huge impact. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
All right. So I was doing my little YouTube researches the other day, and I saw a video about Yellowstone National Park. Have you ever heard about the wolves of Yellowstone?
I heard of it briefly, but I'm not too familiar with it.
All right. So basically, 40 wolves were reintroduced into Yellowstone back in 1995 to help lower the deer population. Humans got rid of the wolves, and they hadn't been there for like 70 years. So because of that, the deer and the elk populations exploded. And as a result of that, overgrazing along the riverbanks and the lower valleys happened, which caused mice and rabbits to get picked off from coyotes and other smaller predators because they couldn't hide because the vegetation was gone. So the wolves did kill some of the deer and elk and help lower the population, but that wasn't actually the major effect in this whole situation. The deer and the elk started avoiding certain parts of the park where they could be trapped, mostly the valleys and gorges. As a result, these areas rapidly regenerated vegetation. So the roots started, new growth and stabilized the riverbanks. Certain sections of the river narrowed and pools formed with the new growth of vegetation and flowers. Birds and bees came back to these areas. The beavers came back, who started to build their own structures, like dams and stuff that made new homes for fish, reptiles, and muskrats. The wolves killed some of the coyotes, so the rabbits and the rodent populations began to grow. And as a result of that, hawks, weasels, and badgers started to come back. Eagles and bears, they started flourishing. The vegetation that was growing gave berries to the bears, and the leftovers of the wolves was scavenged by bears and eagles. So the entire ecosystem and physical geography of Yellowstone was changed just by the introduction of 40 wolves. That's like the perfect example of the ripple effect. Much like, people talk about a stone being thrown in the water and causing a ripple effect, education is like the stone. You could put it in your pocket and do nothing with it. You could throw it on land for your own amusement and pick it up and throw it again and pick it up and throw it again. Or you could throw it in a lake, and throwing it in the lake will cause ripples, and those ripples make a difference. So today I want to understand, Joelvy, because you're making some ripples. What led you to your stone? Why you chose it? How you're currently playing with it, so to speak, and what ripples are you planning on making in the future?
Yeah, wow, that's an amazing story.
All right,
Wow.
so let's start then. Give me the history of Joelvy Delacruz.
So growing up, I was the youngest of three, and my mom, she was a single mother, and we only had one income in the household.
Where did you
And
grow? Where did you grow up?
So we grew up in West Harlem, and we lived there for about 10 years. Eventually, we were able to move to the Bronx. From as early as I can remember, I remember my mom being able to provide for us, some of the most essential things that we needed growing up with whatever she had. She was able to, provide for us some, to put clothes on our backs. She was able to put food on the table. I remember she would always want us to eat at the dinner table together as a family. She would always make sure that we go to Sunday school, go to church right after. Growing up, I always played a lot of sports. I played baseball and football. Looking back, not knowing how my mom was able to pay for all those things and pay for the equipment and still be able to provide for me and my siblings growing up. Like I said, we lived in West Harlem for about 10 years, and then my mom was able to save up some money, buy a co-op in the Van Cortlandt area of the Bronx. There is where I met a lot of my closest friends and a lot of the friends that I'm still close with today. Mm-hmm. And I met a lot of the people that truly defined and cultivated who I am today. And I'm super grateful for all those individuals. And I remember growing up, there was a very pivotal moment in our life, and that's when my mom lost her job.
What did she do for work?
She worked in New York City housing. It was a public servant job. She worked for that company for over a decade, and she was laid off. I remember it was a very scary and emotional time for us because at that time we didn't know where we were going to get the money to pay for the bills or pay for the mortgage or pay for food to eat.
Right. And she was a single mother too, right?
Yeah. I remember as a young kid, I had to make some tough decisions and some sacrifices during that time. And I remember I had to quit playing in the football team because I had to go out, get a job, and start helping out my family any way I can. That was a very important time in my life because I learned a lot of lessons during that time. And those were some of the reasons why I now look up to my mom and call her one of my heroes. It's because during that time, she was able to not let that moment put her down. She was able to get back up on her feet. She's actually started volunteering at a local hospital without getting paid for several months. Through her hard work, through her dedication, and through never giving up, she was able to earn a paid position at that hospital. And we were able to kind of, for the moment, get out of the situation that we were in. Those things, really helped me growing up, her hard work, the dedication, and never giving up. And it got me through a lot of the situations in my life, whether it was high school, college, eventually getting a job and becoming a police officer. Growing up, my mom always told me I would go up to any police officer I would see, whether it was at the subway platform or they were standing in the street on a post. I would go up to them, shake their hand, say thank you, and say, hey, I want to be just like you when I grow up. I also wanted to become a baseball player, but there weren't many Major League Baseball players standing at a subway platform line where I could go up to and say,
I appreciate what you do on a daily basis.
Yeah. Exactly. But nonetheless, in 2016, it became a reality for me. And then 8 years later, here I am as a police officer.
That's great, man. And, props to your mom. I mean, it's very, very difficult for a single woman with 3 kids, to make it happen, especially in the city area, and she was able to purchase a co-op too, right?
Oh, yeah. That was very significant to us, and it still, impacts us today. So it's very important that she was able to do that.
And her work she worked in public housing, you said?
Yeah, New York City housing. She worked there for over a decade, and that time when she got that phone call where she was officially laid off, and it was something very emotional for us as a family and scary at the same time.
Oh yeah, you feel beat down. So, but she was able to pick the pieces up, right? And she started doing, what did you say? She was working at a hospital? She
started volunteering. Yeah, she started volunteering at the local hospital, and she did it for several months, not getting paid, just working hard and never giving up, and eventually
they offered her a job, right?
Yes. Yep.
So I'm sure that her learning from the public housing how to deal with people and nurture them probably really helped in that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Did she become like a nurse, or was she public relations, or like what was she doing at the hospital?
She did a lot of the secretary work, so a lot of the paper filing, a lot of the phone calls, and timekeeping and everything like that for the hospital.
That's awesome.
So not a nurse.
That's awesome. So what is it like being a police officer? Like being a police officer probably comes with a lot of trials and fears that a lot of people really don't consider when they see you standing on the side of the road or in your car. Like, what's going through your mind? What are some of those things that people don't know about the police officers?
As a first responder in law enforcement, I'm faced with, and other officers are faced with, a lot of things that can greatly affect someone's life, whether it's at work or whether it's at home. As a police officer in patrol, we typically deal with and answer 911 calls when people are in trouble or having some type of traumatic situation or event. Mm-hmm. And we pick up those calls, and we go and try and solve those situations and try and help to the best of our ability. And in our career, it's definitely very rewarding,
right?
But it comes with a lot of risk and a lot of dangers. And sometimes there's long hours, and sometimes those long hours take away from spending time with your family. Some of the things that me and my fiance always talked about, because she worked in one of the most dangerous areas in the South Bronx, I always thought of how to be able to help her get out of that dangerous situation. And I always had that in my mindset. What can I do to be able to get her out of that situation?
Right.
And when our son was born a year ago, last year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. We got together as a family, and we talked about what are some of the ways that we can not only continue providing for our family, but get her out of that dangerous environment. Mm-hmm. And right around during that time, we were doing real estate, but we still hadn't found our first investment property. I remember when we finally did get our first investment property, mm-hmm. We were able to acquire a few more within a few months, and ultimately we were able to be in that position to get her out of that dangerous environment and dangerous job. And as of last month, my fiance is officially retired from the job of being a police officer, and I couldn't be happier for her.
That's awesome. That really is. So, like, what brought you to real estate? Like, what made you actually think real estate is going to be the educational platform that I'm going to take? That's what we're going to do to change our lives and use it as an investment. Because, I know that you guys have your pensions, right? I know if something happens, the family's, sort of taken care of. I'm sure there's some horror stories out there where the spouse is struggling. You are a Suffolk County police officer?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
One of the highest paid police officers, right? Not you specifically, but it's truth. And your wife was a city police. Your fiance was a city police officer, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. and they get paid a lot lower. And she was in the most dangerous areas.
It was she was definitely in a different environment that I was in, and you know, those were some of the things that we talked about, especially when our son was born. You know, she is an amazing mother, and I'm so happy to have her as a partner. That those were some of the things that we talked about as a family, and getting her out of that situation and still be able to, you know, provide for our family and know that we're going to be okay even though she steps out of that world.
Gotcha. So real estate, what brought you to it?
You know, me and my fiance, we got into real estate not really knowing anything about investing. We owe a lot of credit to my fiance's father and our parents because they kind of guided us into not renting and owning something. They always told us, hey, make sure you buy and own something and not rent, because a lot of the years that they spent, they were renting. They came from, you know, the Dominican Republic, and they came to this country and they rented. So they always try to instill to us, you know, try and own something instead of rent.
Right. Because with rent, you're just throwing your money out.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was our like very first introduction into real estate. And in 2019, we saved up some money and we were able to buy our very own co-op. And it was just a 1-bedroom co-op, and we lived in it for about 2 years. And we put some money into it. We made it look nice. And when we sold it, we used those profits to buy our primary house.
Okay.
And right around that time when we bought our house, I remember I came home one week and it was a stressful week. I think I worked maybe like 6 or 7 days out of the week, and long hours, long overtime hours. And my fiance as well, she was working a lot of hours. And I kind of like sat down and I started thinking to myself, is this it? Is this what I'm going to be doing for the next 20 plus years? Just, you know, working long hours, working overtime, not having any time to spend with my family. And is this the only way that I'm going to be able to make money and pay for our bills? Because we were still living paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
I was scrolling through social media, and I kept on seeing some of the most well-known individuals in real estate, like Robert Kiyosaki, Grant Cardone, and Pace Morbies. And I would listen to what they were saying, and some of the things were finally hitting me, and I kind of was like understanding, like, you can do this in real estate. So I went and I actually paid for like an online course.
Okay.
Where it teaches you to buy like a 200 or 300 unit apartment building for your first deal. And I was just like, whoa.
Very realistic, right?
This is not
incredibly realistic.
So, and not only that, it was also the not being able to communicate with anybody or ask anybody any personal questions. It was all online PowerPoints and watching pre-recorded videos, and it wasn't personable. It wasn't somewhere where I can go and meet people that are actually doing deals that are just like me, that I can relate to. Mm-hmm. So I kind of took a step back from that, and I started doing some research. And because I wanted to have that feeling and to have that opportunity to go meet people that actually are doing real estate deals that I can actually meet and talk to and relate to. And if I had any question, I can call them and say, hey, I have a question about this. And that's when I came across your podcast. And I remember you always saying, if anybody has any questions, you know, send them over. So I send over a question, and one day I'm listening to the podcast and I hear you reading off my question, and I turn to my fiance. I'm like, babe, look, this famous guy, John, he's reading my
Famous.
question. Like this real estate mogul is reading my question. Like, can come hear this. So I was super excited about that. I was
Yeah.
excited, and quickly right after that, I started going to the meetups, the Long Island RIA meetups, and in the meetups, that's where I was. I was still new. I
Hmm.
still didn't know much, but I was open to speaking to people. I was communicating a lot with everyone there, all the other people that are there. I remember meeting one of my good friends that I'm still friends with now, my good buddy Dominic. He came up to me and we started talking.
He's a
And
helicopter pilot, right?
yes, he is. Yes, he is.
It was
Yep.
for the police
And
department.
yeah. So we actually started talking, and he said, "Hey, man, I'm in the same field as you. These are the type of deals that I'm doing. I got a few properties, and he gave me his number, and I was able to call him and relate to someone and actually talk to someone at that meeting, and kind of like have some type of interaction with someone that's actually doing deals, and that kind of got me excited and kept me going. So I kept on going to all the meetings, and I eventually took the mentoring course, which was amazing, and eventually learned what creative finance was, which I feel like it's an amazing strategy that everybody should learn. After learning those strategies, we quickly got out a few deals. And
So you took the mentorship program, and then you did some deals before that. How were your deals after that different after taking the course that you took, your education?
yeah, so the mentoring program, it was very important to me because it allowed me to be in the room with other students that were interested in getting into real estate and really building that foundation that's essential to buying real estate. And it also allowed me to be in the same room with the instructors like you and Melissa, and learn a lot about where you guys were investing, what type of properties to invest in, how to underwrite deals, how to vet tenants, all the essential things that you need to build that foundation when you're getting into real estate.
Right, and I think it was different also because you said you took the computer course first, right?
Oh yeah,
How
yeah.
to
So
buy
I took
how to buy how to buy what, apartment complexes or what
so
you
so,
say?
so yeah.
I did
It
it.
was
You could do it too. So I
um,
think it was more hands on because we actually I think you came to Connecticut with us, didn't you? Did you come to Connecticut?
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
we did a tour of
yes.
Connecticut and showed you the properties that we were purchasing. I mean, we do them in several different states. So even though it's Long Island Real Estate Investors Association, I call it LIREA because we teach it everywhere. To where those people that are, I did it, you can too. Yeah, where did you do it? Are you just in
Yeah.
Texas? Are you just teaching the Texas model? But you think that's going to be replicated everywhere else? Because it's not.
Exactly. No, yeah, and that's why I loved it so much because I was able to be in those rooms and be able to interact with everyone and see people that are doing deals, see what type of deals they're working on, and we would always bounce ideas off of each other. And that's what allowed me to truly learn, is to be in that environment and to be in front of all those people, the experts and the students as well. And
Right.
I remember quickly after learning about creative finance and utilizing that strategy, or utilizing the different strategies, and one in particular called seller finance, which helped me get my first deal. Pretty much what seller finance is instead of you going to the bank and putting down 20 to 30% on an investment loan and getting a high interest rate, you essentially can go directly to a seller that owns a house free and clear and ask them to be the bank for you and ask them to give you a mortgage. That's what I was able to do for my first deal. And I remember it took a long time negotiating it, but eventually I was able to give the seller their purchase price. And in return, they were able to give me terms that allowed me to cash flow. And with just that one single family, that property cash flows today close to $1,000 a month.
That's awesome. And is that based off of your question from that email too? I have a deal with no money for a down payment.
So actually, when I first started off, not having the guidance and not having the expertise that you guys gave me, I was trying to, at the moment, I was trying to do things like Airbnb, and I was trying to do things, super, super far away, where if I ended up doing that, I'm glad that those things didn't work out and I didn't follow through on those deals, because I feel like those things wouldn't have worked out for us, and it would have been a tough property to manage, a tough property to make money off of, because it was the numbers were tight. That's why I'm glad that I was able to get the guidance that you guys gave us, because it allowed me to really look at that deal and say, this is something that is not going to work. Let me focus on something else. Actually going to those trips to Connecticut, that's where I was able to find my market and say, hey, this is where my mentors are investing. I'm going to also invest here, because they already, they're the experts. They already know what they're doing. So let me just follow in their footsteps.
Excellent.
And yeah,
it's amazing, man. And you were able to get you're not working 100 hours a week, right?
No. Definitely not.
Your fiance retired.
Yes.
Which she's out of that dangerous job. You guys have some passive income. You
Yeah,
guys have your rock. You threw it in the water. Now, what ripples are you making, or are you attempting to make in the future?
For example, that deal that I was just talking about, utilizing seller finance, we were able to get like a 2% interest rate during this time, where interest rates are at 6, 7,
they're ridiculous
8% now, even 9%. And we were able to buy that property without any of our, without going to the bank, without any credit checks, without any credentials. I didn't have to show my W-2. I didn't have to show my tax returns or my pay stubs. And I was able to buy that property without using any of my own money. I was able to repeat that process, talking about the ripple effect. I was able to repeat that process and buy several other deals from that same individual that sold me that first house. A lot of people do say, hey, why would someone do such a deal like this, or, do something like seller finance? There are different creative finance strategies that can allow us to help individuals. For example, there are strategies that can help anyone that is going through pre-foreclosure, or anyone that has low or no equity and wants to sell their house. There's also strategies like seller finance that can help tired landlord. For example, the situation the example that I gave for my first deal, it was a tired landlord that didn't want to, 1031 their money into another property. They wanted to sell off their assets little by little, and they were able to make more money over the long run and save on capital gains taxes as well.
Right.
So those were some of the things that, we kept on doing and we kept on trying to do. Utilizing creative finance allowed us to get to the position where we are now, where we're trying to pretty much share our story and share what we've done. A lot of the goals that I set in the beginning was retire my fiance and get her out of that dangerous environment that she was in. We've been able to accomplish that goal, and now our goals are now to share our story and to share our journey in real estate, in hopes to inspire others and inspire someone to, start building generational wealth and start building a legacy for them and their family. We actually created a platform called Cops to Cashflow.
Okay.
It's on Instagram. There we highlight our story and other first responders' story, and showing how they're building generational wealth and building a legacy through real estate for them and their families.
That's awesome. So your pond is with the first responders. That's where your ripples are going.
Yes, yes. And a lot of the stuff that we're trying to implement as well is my fiance, she's trying to integrate also helping female first responders getting into this world that we're in. What she's trying to do is just help females if they want to, spend more time with their kids or spend time with their family. What she does now is called transactional coordinating. What that essentially is just helping an investor out with all the documentation and the preparation pre and post closing. Right. They're the ones that, talk to attorneys, talk to title companies. They make sure that the insurance is properly done so that the investor themselves, they can go out and look for more deals, or, they can spend time doing what they need to do and have the transaction coordinator work for them and pretty much prepare all the documentation that's needed for closing. We're also trying to help families that unfortunately lost loved ones in the line of duty. And what we're trying to do is pretty much give back, and a portion of the proceeds that we get from the merchandise that we sell, we want to be able to give back to those families of fallen officers. We're trying to continue to share our story and spread our message. And what we ultimately want to do is inspire anyone that wants to find a way to learn and make extra money. They can definitely look at our story and follow along in our footsteps as well.
That's excellent, man. There really is. You guys have such an amazing story. Are you going to be at the next event, the networking event?
Yeah. I would definitely be there. Yeah, that's going to be this 13th, right?
It's the 13th. Yep, Tuesday the 13th. It's on Off Market Deals, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Off Market Deals. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be fun. I'm going to be there. You're going to be there. Anthony and Melissa are going to be there. If you guys have questions or want to talk to Joelvy about his story, go to outoftheratracepodcast.com and hit the events banner and get a free ticket. You owe it to yourself. Joelvy, amazing story, man. I really can't thank you enough for being on the show. Do you have any questions?
No, I just want to say thank you for having me. And I'm just glad that I was able to, from the beginning, find you guys and been able to set me in the right direction. If anybody wants to follow on our journey, they can go to Cops of Cash Flow on Instagram and watch what we're doing and hear and listen to our story and follow along.
There you go. You guys owe it to yourself to listen to the story. And everything starts with education, right? So the best way to get out of the rat race, guys, is to throw a stone and start a ripple, whether it be in real estate, construction, owning your own retail business. It all starts with education, the stone. Stones build foundations that hold structures, and sometimes the structures get knocked down. But as long as you have a solid foundation, like your mom, working in the industry, she was able to go right over to a different field and build a new structure on her foundation, the education that she had. Guys, go to outoftheratracepodcast.com, hit the education button, and find out how you can use real estate to build a solid foundation to create your own ripple effect. Special thanks to Officer Joelvy Delacruz, everyone that helps me bring you guys these great stories, and of course to you guys for listening to these stories. Please, like Joelvy, ask some questions through the website, outoftheratracepodcast.com, and as always, love you guys. Peace.